Hello everyone, if you've clicked on this video because you own a Vax Air Stretch Total Home or a similar Vax Air model and want it to work a bit better than it does, hopefully by the end of the video, if you follow my hints and tips, you'll have a fully functioning vacuum again. This particular example doesn't belong to me, but it looks like it's in need of a bit of a service. So let's start with the bin. Most bagless vacuum cleaners require more maintenance than their bagged counterparts, and this Vax Air Stretch is no exception. Now obviously with a bagless unit you have to empty it on a regular basis, preferably before it's reached the max fill line, and on this Vax it's here. So we'll have a look. Now there is quite a bit of dirt in this container, but it's not reached the max fill line, but there is a lot of debris trapped around the shroud. You can just about see that. Now this all needs a thorough clean, so before we can disassemble this and give it a clean, I need to empty all this dirt into the bin. Even with the bin emptied, there's still a lot of dirt trapped around this central shroud in the bagless container, but with this Vax machine we can take it apart to give it a more thorough clean. You'll notice on the back of the handle unit here we've got a locked and an unlocked padlock sign. You just need to turn it to the unlocked position and then you can pull out the top of the unit here, which contains the carry handle. There's not a lot you can do with this. You can give this a wipe out if you want. I find those surface wipes are ideal because they don't put too much liquid. Don't submerge this in water because it does contain a metal spring which forms the suction relief valve. You'll know if that's working because if you overfill your machine or if there's a blockage or the filters are clogged, this will activate and allow air into the motor so it doesn't overheat, but you'll hear an air rushing sound if that happens. So you can wipe this out, but don't submerge it in water. We'll put that aside for 1 minute and we can see the first filter, which is located here. So that comes off, and you can see on this model it's fairly dirty. Now Vax says you should only use water to clean this filter. Hold it under the tap, give it a squeeze and leave it for up to 24 hours. If however your guarantee has expired and you want to give it a thorough clean, you can use detergent. In fact, I use detergent with most of my filters in my bagless vacuums. Just a mild washing detergent is fine. Rinse it and again make sure it's thoroughly dried. So that is the first thing I'm going to do with this machine, is to give this filter a wash. Now we can see under here part of the cyclone unit and there's some debris and hair trapped around that. This does also come away from the bagless container. So all we have to do is basically just pull it. It's going to be quite mucky, this one. So now we've separated the inner cyclone from the bin. Now this bin, there's nothing to stop you cleaning this with some warm water and detergent. Just normal dishwashing detergent is fine. Rinse it and then wipe it out and leave it to dry thoroughly, but don't let it dry over any direct heat. You can open up the base of the bagless unit and you'll find round the base a little rubber seal. Now give that a good clean as well. I can feel there's a lot of gritty particles under this, which means it won't be sealing as effectively as it did when it was new. So give that a wipe round. Even if you don't wash the whole bagless unit, just get a damp cloth or a wet wipe and wipe around the seals. But I'm going to give this a more thorough clean. So I'll put that to one side to be cleaned with the filter. And now we can look at this part of the unit, which as you can see there's a lot of debris trapped around the central shroud. Now it's advisable not to submerge this in water because it will take a long time to dry, but for this video I am going to disassemble it a bit further and give it a thorough clean. But for most people just cleaning the shroud should be sufficient. So I'm just going to use my hands at the moment and you can see all this debris just stuck around this shroud. You can use a brush if you want to give it a more thorough clean, or if you've got another vacuum cleaner to hand, that's ideal. You can use a vacuum cleaner with a brush attachment to help clean all around there. So just by picking it off you can see I'm removing quite a lot of dirt. So Again, you can just do this, use a wet wipe to give it a more thorough clean, and again concentrate on the seals. There is a seal around here that will benefit from a good clean. So once we've got to this stage, we can continue to clean and remove all the bits. I've got a surface wipe here, and as you can see, it's ideal for removing the surface dust and for cleaning around the seals. Make sure you make this seal is clean here in the middle, and you can also use it, of course, to clean the shroud. Obviously, if I was doing this on my own, I would be taking more time, and I'd advise you to take as much time as you need in order to get it thoroughly clean. You can also use the wet wipe or a damp cloth to wipe around the red part. It might be a different colour on your model, it could be orange, but it's all the same. Wipe around the seals here. But I want to give this a bit more of a clean, and you can dismantle this slightly more without any tools. You'll see a little ring here at the bottom. You can just turn that and remove it. You can wash that in warm soapy water, and of course leave it to dry, and then the whole shroud comes away. So now it's going to be very easy to clean. Obviously, look, that's quite dirty, so a bit of warm soapy water and a rinse and a dry, and that will be as good as new. And then we have the inner cyclone unit. Again, look, it's covered in dust, so you can just spend some time wiping it down all over, and then of course just assemble it in the opposite way. But I'm going to dismantle this slightly more. You don't have to do this. If your vacuum cleaner is smelling, you might find the smell is coming from inside the cyclone. You know, I can clean as much as I can on the outside, but I'm never really going to clean very well inside without flushing it through with water. But once you get water in these, it's going to take quite a while for it to dry, so I wouldn't recommend it. But I'm actually going to undo all the screws around the circumference of this cyclone unit. There's also a central screw which I think I'll have to undo as well. Once that's removed, we should be able to see inside this cyclone and give it a good clean. Okay, so that's all 8 screws removed from the cyclone. They're all the same size, so it doesn't matter which way you put them back. So we'll just put those to one side, somewhere safe. And now we should be able to take this apart a bit more. And yuck, you can see there's even more dirt coming out. You can see the inside here of the cyclone. I will be able to wash this in warm soapy water. Now it's disassembled, it won't take so long to dry. This happens with many bagless machines, even the most expensive ones. After a while, dirt will build up on the inside of the cyclones. So it's always a good idea to be able to take them apart. So that's going to need a wash. And then this part is not quite fully disassembled. We might be able to get away with it, but I'm going to do a thorough job and remove this grey part. So it looks like there are 3 more screws we need to undo. They're hidden by loads of dust, but we'll undo those screws and we should be able to separate this part of the cyclone from the central area here. Okay, now we should be able to remove this part, and again, look at all that dirt built up there. So this part, like the other part of the cyclone unit, can be washed in warm soapy water with some mild detergent. I'll put that to one side, and we need to put these screws to one side. Just take them out. I'll just check if they're the same size as the other screws we removed. I've already lost them, here they are. They do look the same, but I'm going to keep them separate. So these 3 screws, put those somewhere safe with the other screws. And then again, look, there's all this dirt build up, dust build up inside. So this is something else that's going to be washed in warm soapy water. Before I have a look at the cleaner head, I'm just going to show you the other filter that's fitted to this Vax cleaner. It's located under here where the bin is situated. Under this dust there is a unlocked and locked padlock sign, so just turn it to the unlocked part and you can remove this top grill. If you want to give this a wipe or a wash, now's the time to do it. Now in this particular model you can't wash this filter. Some Vax models might have a washable exhaust filter, but on this one it's not washable. You do need to replace it if it becomes too black. So if I look at that, yes, that is quite black. Not so bad on this side. If this was getting more black, then I think it'd be time to replace it. Now the black isn't dust, it's actually carbon dust from the electric motor. It's not dust that you've picked up from your home. This is what the electric motor produces. If your motor has carbon brushes, this is just what happens with all electric motors. So this is what this filter does. It traps the carbon dust and also any very fine dust that has managed to pass through the cyclones and the other filter on the Vax. So with this one, post filter maintenance, do not wash. So it can be tapped on the side of your bin, but that's all you can do with this model. Check your instructions, you'll probably find details on the actual filter. You might be able to wash it in your version, but in this version you can't. If I was to try and wash this, it would probably disintegrate and I'd have to buy a new one. You can buy spares of these from Vax's website. Under here, this is where the motor is located. If you want to, you can give that a bit of a wipe with a surface wipe, but you know, it is, yeah, you can see it's going on my fingers, so I think I will do that. A lot of what I'm showing you isn't 100% necessary. As long as you keep the bin emptied and the filters clean, that's the most important thing. But if, as I said, if your vacuum is starting to smell, especially if you have pets, you might want to go further and disassemble the cyclone like I'm showing you. So look, you can give that a wipe if you want to, and while you're at it you can wipe down other parts of the machine if you're that bothered with how your vacuum looks. But while I'm doing this, I might as well do the job properly. As you've got a damp cloth or a wet wipe to hand, you might as well at this stage give this seal a clean. Now this is what seals the bin to the machine, and again that could become dusty, bits of grit can get underneath the seal and it won't seal effectively. So I'll do that properly later, but that gives you a rough idea of what you can do. It's always important to keep all the seals free from dust, dirt and grit. Okay, now I'm going to take all these parts and give them a really good clean and leave them to dry while I'm attending to the rest of the vacuum cleaner. Now I'm going to show you how to remove the brush roll for cleaning or replacement. Now first of all you need to locate 3 screws at the side, and you can see here this end cap there are 1, 2, 3 Phillips screws, so we need to remove this first. So lay the machine on its side and undo the 3 screws. 1, 2, 3, and then we should be able to remove this cover. Put that to one side, making sure you retain the screws. Just have a look on the underside, that's fairly clean, but at this stage if it's got a load of hairs or gunk in there, you can actually give this a clean. Now there's another part to remove here. That just pulls off, and again put that to one side, and at this stage if there's any bits, any hairs, any fluff, you can just pick that away. Now at this stage if you need to replace the belt, this is when you can do it. This belt is fine. The belt should last quite a long time on these machines. It's quite a thick belt and it's toothed. So if that's snapped or it looks very worn, now is the time to replace it. Now we can remove the brush roll, so just take hold of the pulley and start to pull it up. Now you might find this part here comes loose, but on this model it's just staying where it is, so I can just pull out the brush in one go, and now I can give this a thorough clean, or if it's very worn I can replace it. Now that we've removed the brush roll, we've got better access into the brush roll housing, and I've noticed on this one we've got some string caught around the end, so any debris that you see on the end here, obviously pick it out. If you've got another vacuum cleaner with a crevice tool, use that to clean all around there. We can also check at this stage for any blockages. You can take the hose off here and then you can obviously see if there's any blockages. There's no blockages on this one, but it's all quite dirty and grubby. So I'm going to use a wet wipe. Now this is very dirty, so I'm going to assist the wet wipe with a little bit of spray cleaner as well. So let's take a wet wipe now. So give the base a bit of a wipe as well. And now inside the brush roll housing. So now, once this is all clean, we should be able to see the brush rotating. Obviously it will get dirty again fairly quickly, and this is optional, but while you've got the brush out, it won't do you any harm just to give it a quick wipe. It doesn't take too long. Already that is looking much better than it did a couple of minutes ago. Okay, a little bit more cleaning later, and we have a much cleaner brush housing than we had at the start of the video. I've also cleaned up the agitator brush, got rid of all the threads and fibres. Now you'll find on these often this area here in between the belt pulley and the body of the brush roll, you'll get a lot of hair and fibres and threads, dental floss, loads of things trapped around there, so you need to remove all of that if there's any debris around there. Now there is another bearing on this side. I'm not sure how to take this off. I'm not going to remove it. It's not my vacuum. I don't want to break it, but if you see any visible hairs around here, just pick them off. But that's pretty clean and it's running fairly smoothly. So now I'm just going to relocate the brush roll and put the end cap back on, and then we'll have to reassemble the cyclone assembly. With the cleaner on its side again, we need to relocate the brush roll, and it goes with this square piece first. So we don't need to locate it properly yet, just put it inside the brush roll housing until it's roughly in place. And then we need to refit these two parts. Now these are in two parts, don't think they're broken. This needs to go in next, the larger piece at the top. So you need the brush roll still movable, and you need to make sure that these pieces are underneath this pulley. So we can put them on actually first, like this, just loosely, and then locate them. That top one's in place. You can see this bit here, it's gone through the hole. Just need to make sure that the bottom one is seated properly, which I think it is. Hang on. Now at this stage you can move the brush roll until it's fitted into the square cutout. There it is, I think it's gone in, that's it. Right, now we can jiggle about with these two pieces until they're in place. If the brush roll comes out of its seating at the bottom, just relocate it, which it has done in my case. That's it, I heard it go in. That's rotating. That's it, that's in now. I've heard the click. Right, so that's those pieces in. The brush roll rotates smoothly. It's located properly just in the bottom there. So now we need to refit the belt or fit a new belt. Now obviously the belt goes with the ribbed side on the inside, so we'll locate it on the large pulley first, and then it's a question of stretching it and moving it as well as the back pulley moves, there we go, that's in place. Just make sure it's fully seated and everything rotates freely as it does. And also at this stage, just check the brush bar hasn't dislocated from its position, which it had. So there we go, that is now in position. We've got the belt fitted and the brush bar is rotating as it should. Now we need to fit this part. This is the brush bar location plate, and if you look very carefully you might be able to see a small arrow just here. Now you need to ensure that the arrow points towards the front of the vacuum cleaner, the front of the cleaner head. So before we put this on, make sure that the brush bar is still located properly at the bottom, and basically we just need to guide it in place. You can see there's 3 holes. The middle hole obviously goes over the bearing, and you've got 2 holes that correspond with these 2 pins that stick up, which we will actually thread some screws into those. That's when the final cover goes on. So it's not easy, there's a certain knack to it. You just need to move it about until it falls into place. Don't force it. Right, I think that's it. Right, and we'll just check that everything rotates. The brush bar and the belt is rotating freely. So finally now we can refit the end cap. Again, a final check that everything is seated correctly, and this end cap can go back on like that. And then we've got the 3 screws that we need to reinsert. Just do them up by hand as much as I can, and then finish off using a Phillips screwdriver. So that's the brush roller reinserted. Everything seems fine. Obviously we'll give it a test later on, but that's running smoothly. If I turn the cleaner over, you can see now, although it's still a bit opaque because obviously these clear parts of vacuum cleaners, especially on the bin and on the brush roll, if it's clear, they soon get cloudy with the action of dirt going into the machine and grit. They get scratched up, but that is clean now, and this suction control moved smoothly across. Took a while to get that properly clean, but it was worth doing. So now that moves very freely. Before I cleaned it, it was a bit stiff. Right, now finally I need to reassemble the cyclone that I've cleaned up. So obviously I'm going to reassemble the cyclone in the way I disassembled it, but obviously in the opposite direction. So first thing to do is attach this red piece here to the first part of the inner cyclone. You can see it's all cleaned up now. So we just need to locate it. Now it takes 3 screws, so we need to locate the screw holes, and you can see here 1, 2, 3, and you need to make sure they're lined up like that. Also, another way of checking, an easier way than looking at the screw threads, is there's a little line you can just about see just there under my finger, and there's another line there. So basically just line those 2 lines up like that, and then reassemble the 3 screws. I do like this design because it is easy to take apart yourself. This is not in the instruction, taking this part off, but it's obviously designed for the user to be able to take it apart to clean it. I have seen some bagless machines that, well, frankly, they don't want you to dismantle them for cleaning. But you will find, especially if you've had a bagless cleaner for a few years and you've never touched the cyclone, if you attempt to take it apart like this model, you will find a load of dirt inside. This vacuum isn't too old and there wasn't a huge amount of dirt in it, but I have seen pictures online, and you can look yourself, and videos of cyclones extremely clogged up with dirt. So by cleaning them, it's going to remove any smell that might have built up and of course make the cyclone more efficient. So there we go, that's the first part assembled. Next we need to fit the upper cyclone to the lower cyclone using the 8 screws, and this does go on a specific way as well. You'll notice in the lower cyclone there is a cutout shape there, and that corresponds with the shape here on the upper cyclone. So basically we need to marry those up like that and just put in all the 8 screws and do those up. There we go, that's the last one in. Don't over tighten them, I'll just go and check that I've tightened them all properly. As I say, if you hear any cracking noises, you're over tightening, so just make sure everything's properly seated. So there we go. Now we need to assemble the shroud. The next 2 parts do come off for easy cleaning without the use of tools. What I've shown you previously, it's optional. You don't have to clean a cyclone to the extent I've shown you in the video, but it's there to disassemble if you want to. So this is the shroud. You just have to locate it over the inner cyclone, and it does go a specific way. There's a little cutout and a lug that sticks up. So once it's in position, you can then attach the locking ring. So basically line it up, make sure that the shroud is still in place. Line it up as so, if you can just about see, and then you just twist it to the locked position, and there we go, that's fully assembled. Here's the dirt bin, looking a lot cleaner than it did at the start of the video. So now we need to reinsert the cyclone assembly, and you'll see that there is a half circular shape here which corresponds with the cutout on the top of the bin. So basically you just reinsert the cyclone and make sure that those fit together. Then all we have to do is fit the filter. As you can see, that looks brand new now. I did use a bit of detergent, I have to say. That is bone dry. It's been more than 24 hours since I started the video, so that's dry. That can now fit in the top, and it goes with the lip uppermost. You won't be able to put it in the other way, so don't try and force it. It just fits very neatly like that around the top. Then we need to put the handle. As I said, don't wet this. I've just given this a wipe out with a wet wipe. It's hard to see, but there's a little black arrow on the back. And basically we need to line up the black arrow with the unlocked padlock, turn it to the locked position. This could do with replacing. It's not too bad though, it's still fairly clean on this side, but if it starts to get too black on this side, then I would replace it. But you know, it's not my vacuum, I'm not going to replace it. So that just goes this way up with the grid at the top. Just pushes in. I've given this a bit of a clean as well, and again there is a locked and unlocked padlock shape that needs to go towards the front. So just locate it until you can feel it's seated, and then you turn it to the locked position with the word filter at the front. And finally I just need to refit the cleaned bin and cyclone assembly. And now this vacuum cleaner is ready to clean another day. Well, that's about the end of this video. If you found it useful, please give me a thumbs up. And if you have any comments or questions, please comment below. Just before I go, I better make sure everything's working as it should. Yes, it is, and I've unfortunately made this very nice clean vacuum dirty again. I'll have to do the whole thing all over, but never mind. It'll do for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all very soon.